All right, I would like to welcome everybody to today's installment of the 30-minute workout series, where we'll be exploring property set data in Civil 3D. My name is Jerry Bartles, and I'll be today's speaker. Assisting me on today's presentation are my colleagues Alan Gilbert and Jeff Bartles. While I'm running through the material, they will be in the background helping address any questions that come up along the way. Angel was not able to be with us today. If you've joined us in the past for a previous 30-minute workout session, welcome back. If you're new to the concept, I'm sure you would agree that traditional training courses focused almost exclusively on the software features that you absolutely need to know to do your job. Anything beyond that must be learned by some other means, or worse yet, have to be discovered during a lifetime of use. These sessions are dedicated to help shorten that learning curve. A couple of ground rules for our sessions. The examples we show will be somewhat abstract in nature. We do this intentionally. By using more abstract examples, we're able to focus solely on how a tool functions. Once you understand how a tool works, you can easily apply it in any way that works best for your particular situation. We always appreciate how valuable your time is, so we're committed to starting and ending on time. We cover a lot of material. There's no need to worry about taking notes. These sessions are recorded, and everyone that registers will get access to a recording. If you have any questions during the session, please put them in the Q&A pane, and we'll try and answer them along the way. If any questions remain at the end of the session, we'll absolutely get back to you with an answer. So as far as what we'll be covering today, I'm going to do just a brief intro around property set data. Why do we care about property set data? The main purposes are as it can be applied to any geometry, including Civil 3D objects, which is very helpful. Because they can be applied to Civil 3D objects, they can be included in Civil 3D labels, which is even more helpful. They are more persistent with Civil 3D objects if those objects update, unlike some other things that we may apply with data that may not necessarily be as persistent if the object itself changes. Property set data has got a much better chance of being maintained. And then it's also available outside of Civil 3D and tools like Navisworks, the large model viewer and Autodesk Docs and other places. So the way that I'm going to exercise these or demonstrate them today is we're going to use property set data to solve a particular problem. That problem, or our challenge for today, is to collect information on trees. We've got an owner that wants to go out and has a piece of property that has literally hundreds of trees on the site. They would like to collect the most accurate information possible. So to do that, they are going to send out an arborist. That arborist is going to collect the specific information about the tree, namely the species, the diameter, the condition, whether or not it's multi-stem. The arborist may also be collecting a GPS location while they're out there. And then what they're going to do is when they leave, they're going to place a tag on the tree that has the tree ID that will correspond with the information that they've collected. We're then going to have a surveyor go out in the field. And when the surveyor goes out and does topography, picking up roads and edges of pavement and other things that might be out there on the site, they're also going to pick up the tree data. And in addition to collecting a much more accurate position for the tree, they are going to use the tree ID that was left by the arborist as the description so that there is a common value between both people who are out there that we can tie the information together. We need both because we want the accuracy of the surveyor, but the surveyor may not be an arborist to be able to fill out the rest. We have the arborist that is an expert in the species and information about the tree, but may not necessarily have survey grade equipment while they're out there. So the arborist is going to deliver to us a shapefile that has the data about the trees. The surveyor is going to deliver to us an ASCII file. And because we don't want to have to keep referring to both pieces of information, we're going to merge those together so that we get the best of both. We're going to bring that information in as civil COGO points, and we will have the accuracy from the surveyor as well as the arborist's attributes, all of which can be incorporated into the point with point labels and in the display and exporting and stuff like that. So we will exercise property set data to accomplish this task. As always, this is a PowerPoint free zone, so I'm going to drop out of my presentation right now, and we will hop immediately into Civil 3D. So in Civil 3D, I've got, I'm in a drawing. I'm in Civil 3D 2022. What I'm going to be showing today can be done going back to, I think, as far back as 2018, maybe even further. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in the current version. I've already got some property set information set up in here. If I go to my Manage tab and we go to Define Property Sets, I've already got a table created with a couple of values. One is around quality, so that I can assign a property set value of A, B, C, or D, A being the highest grade of quality for a surveyor, maybe survey grade, D being maybe something that indicates it was digitized off a paper set of plans. I also want to have maybe source information that I can attach to objects so that I know where it came from, maybe as an audit trail for use later in the future. When this is defined, I can also apply it to specific objects, and you can see that I've got this set up right now that it can be applied to COGO points. We could apply it to any number of things that are in here. At the end of our session today, I will give you the names of some YouTube links that you can go to where this team has put together a number of other videos around property set data in general. Today, I just like to use them more than spend the 30 minutes that we have actually going through and defining them. So once this has been created, I can take, for example, because it's been assigned to these points, I can come down and go to properties. We can go to extended data. And because property set information is available for that point, I can select the button here at the bottom. We can assign that table, and then I can come in here and I can start assigning new values. Like in this case, I have no idea where that point came from, so I'm going to accept the default of D, and I'm the one that put it in, so I can put in my name for that and record that information about the point. Now, property set data is phenomenal for this. It can be kind of a manual task in that we can build tables and then associate it with objects and then populate it with the information we need. However, there is a utility that's available in Civil 3D that will also let us automate the process of not only attaching the data to the objects, but also building the tables required to hold that data. So what I'm going to do to show that is we're going to delete that point. We will take and look at first the shapefile that was created for us by the arborist. I'm going to drag that into my Civil 3D environment. And if I back up, I've got 15 trees here. The overall data set was hundreds, but I thought working with something smaller would be a little easier to keep track of. If I come into here, I'm going to select one of the objects, say show data table. And we can see here is the unique tree ID, the species, the diameter, condition, all of the values that he was required to collect while they were out there, as well as coordinates in more of a mapping grade or whatever, certainly not survey grade detail for the northing and easting and then the elevation. Now, shapefile is great, but if I'm going to be, I'd like to add this annotation to points and stuff like that, I'd really need to convert it into point objects. And there is a utility that allows us to do this. It does not install with Civil 3D by default, but is available through the Autodesk desktop app. It can be installed, or if you go out to where you get your software entitlements, if you look under Civil 3D under updates and utilities, you'll see this tool here, which is the Shape Import Export tool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to the tool here, and we're going to do a shape import, which the purpose is to bring in shape data and make it automatically COGO points or feature lines or polylines. It does a number of different things. So the first thing I'm going to do is we'll just go ahead and grab that same shape file. I'm going to just accept the defaults. We have spatial filters. I can say bring in the stuff within a particular window. If I had a horizontal alignment roadway or something, I could say from one station to another, a buffer on either side. We can literally have multiple sessions in the future about this tool itself. Today, we're just going to focus exclusively on what we can do on the property set side. So I'm going to go ahead and say, okay. When those points come in, you see that they land exactly on top of where the shapefile was. I didn't need the shapefile, but we can just see that from a accuracy standpoint, you see that it corresponds with what the shapefile data contained. If I select the point and we come in to edit the point, I can see, northing and easting, they're the rough numbers. There wasn't zero or there wasn't an elevation on the geometry itself. we don't have a description, and we don't have any of the values that the arborist collected. But what we do have, if we come up and look at manage and define property sets, we see that we've got some new property set tables and definitions now that correspond with the attributes that the arborist collected for all the different values that we needed. We also see that there was some information for kind of like an audit log. I can see the date that it was imported, maybe the shapefile date that it was created, the name, the path where it came from, which is all fantastic information to have later if I want to start working my way backward to figure out and reconstruct where this data came from, maybe how accurate it is, things like that. Once this information comes in, I could select this and say, select similar. I can go to properties, and I can add the same information that we added earlier. In this case, I'm going to say that the condition is, well, it's not D. Let's say it's a B or C right now because it's, you know, GIS grade or whatever, and this came from the arborist. So I've added my quality information to it, and it's been added to all my points. So very, very easy to work with. At the same time, I can take this property set data and I can incorporate it into my annotation. So for example, let's look at the points. I'm going to come down to my label styles. I'm just going to edit the label style that's currently in use here, which is the point number, elevation, and description. There's multiple components in here. So I'm going to create a new one for the property set data. So we'll go ahead and click on that. We'll say this is PS data. Visibility is true. I'm going to anchor that to the description. I'm going to anchor it to the description at the bottom left. And the information itself is going to be tied at the top left, so it's right underneath it. I'm going to throw pretty much everything into one label for right now, just for the sake of time. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And then we'll go to the contents and we'll erase what's there. And you'll see that I've got an area here for property sets. In that, I can go through and select any of the property set information that's been assigned to these objects within this model and then start to use it in my label. So for example, I could say, I'm going to start with the diameter, add that to my list. I'm going to put in an inches symbol because that's the units that it's in. I'm then going to say what the species is. So I'll add that to the list. We'll put another space. I'm then going to say in space, oops, not enter, we'll say space. And then we'll give it the condition, add that to the list. I'll say space and then condition. So I'm actually going to build more or less a sentence that says like 12-inch birch tree or birch in good condition for all of my objects. So we'll go ahead and say okay. And we come in and look, and we see that very quickly, because it's property set data from the arborist, I'm able to now add that to my Civil 3D objects or my points and display that property data pretty much however I'd like to display it. All right. From here, what I'd like to do now is start increasing the accuracy, if you will, so that the points are actually taking advantage of the northing and easting and the elevation that was captured in the field by the surveyor. To do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the top, and we're going to output these points. We'll export them. Point number, northing, easting, elevation, description. Where am I going to export those? We'll export those out to my folder here, and we'll call these GIS trees. And I will say okay. Once that's been exported, what I'm going to do is we'll come down, we'll select, oh, you know what? We're going to do one more thing. I don't have the tie-in yet. If you look at the values here, remember we said that the common piece of information between the two of them was a description that the surveyor has to match the ID. We've not incorporated that yet. So let's do that quickly. I'm going to go back to the same tool. Go back to the same tool here. We'll execute the tool. We'll bring in the same shapefile. I'm going to come up here now to the settings. Once again, we can do a lot with this tool. We'll create a new settings options here. We'll call this 30-minute workout. This tool can be used for feature lines, polylines, 3D polylines. It can be used for points. Because these are trees, I don't need the line work. I just need the points in this case. I'm going to add a new entry to the table for how to handle the points from this shapefile. So I'm going to say they come from the arborist. These are my GIS trees.shape. I can control the description key set. If there's multiple ones, I can control a description key to use. I can assign priorities in case there are things that match between multiple shapefiles that are part of this point import. So it should look at one prior or before another one. What I want to do is I just want to assign the raw description to match the description of what was in the shapefile. I won't see that automatically, but I can handle that or read those values in by selecting the shapefile that I would like to use for the row that I'm defining. In this case, that's my GIS trees. I'm going to select the raw description. I'm going to come down to ID. I'll add that to my list. And like I said, so much control. We can control styles that should be displayed. That's all I'm going to worry about for right now. I'm going to click on OK. And I'm going to save this as my point settings for my 30-minute workout in the event I'd like to open this up and be able to take advantage of what was built previously. So we'll save that. I'm going to click on OK. And we'll click on OK. It says we've got points in there already. We'll go ahead and erase them and import. You'll see that it comes in. All of my points now have a description that match the tag that was used in the fields. Now I have something common between the arborist and the surveyor. But yet it's the elevation is still 0. I want to be able to read that in, but the property set information is still persistent with the objects in that I'm using. If I come in here and look at properties, even though those have been inserted, oh, actually there is an instance where it didn't maintain my my new table. So we'll go ahead and add that. So more persistent, I guess, not absolutely persistent. We'll go ahead and add those in for the accuracy later. Let's export these so we can update it for the surveyor's information. Let's go ahead and export that. Point number, northing, easting, elevation, description. We will export this as combined. I'm sorry, this will be GIS trees.csv. Say OK. You will overwrite the file that's there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to open up Excel. Once we open up Excel, let's expand this a little bit, get a little more screen real estate. We will open that up. And if we look for those files, we see GIS trees. And if we look at it, we see that the point number was assigned, mapping grade, northing, easting, elevation, and then my description or the IDs. I'm going to open another instance of Excel here to get my survey data. Let's go ahead and open that. See what the surveyor sent us. We said it was a ASCII file. So here is the data that they collected. It is comma delimited. So we will add that in this case because it's a text file to get that parsed correctly. We'll say finish. And here is what the surveyor collected. All right, so for me to be able to write this in successfully, I need to maintain the point numbers that are there now, because that's going to be the key that I'll connect to. But I need to match the northings and the eastings and the elevations to the appropriate IDs that were used in both places. Because the arborist and surveyor were going to have visited those trees in totally random path as they collected them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sort my IDs so that I can make them both consistent from top to bottom with the order in that they're displayed. So we'll select this. I'll say sort. I'll sort it by that column. We'll then come to the surveyor's information. We'll do the same thing. We'll say I'd like to sort by the E column. All right. And what I can do is I could just move over the coordinate information, overwrite what's here. But what I'd also like to do is maintain the existing point number that the surveyor used. Once again, for an audit trail, surveyor comes back and talks about data that was shot at point 209 or 204 or whatever. I want to be able to maintain that as well. So I can add some additional detail to this. So I'll add a new column. We'll come back to the surveyor's data, highlight this information. Actually, we just need the coordinates and the point. We'll copy that, bring it into this one, and we will paste it. So I've updated and made those more accurate based on what the surveyor has. So I've got point number, northing, easting, elevation description with a new column of data maintaining the legacy point number from the surveyor. Let's save this. We'll do a save as. We'll put this out as combined trees and make sure that that is a CSV comma delimited. And we'll save that. All right, we'll close out of both of these. All right, with that information out, I can't just read it in because I've got extra data in there than point number, northing, easting, and elevation. I have to accommodate for the new column. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my settings tab. I'm going to go under user defined properties for points, and I'm going to define a new column of information. So I'll create a new table. This is going to be my extra stuff. I will right click on that, create a new entry. We will call this survey point number, and that point number is going to be an integer. And we'll say okay. Now what we can do is when I read it in, I can define a new point file format to take advantage of that column. I'll start with point number, northing, easting, elevation, comma delimited. Right click on that and we'll copy it. I'll call this 30-minute for 30-minute workouts. I'm going to put a new letter in here so that it's point number V for survey, point number, northing, easting, elevation description. And then I will left click and drag these around to look like what is in my Excel file, where I've got the unused information now because I've built that new entry. I can come down and select my survey point number. So we'll select that. We'll say okay. We'll click on okay. And then we're ready now to import our points. So I'm going to come up here to the top. We'll import points from file. We'll select our new combined trees.csv. We see that the auto suggests our new point file format. And you see there is point number, the survey number, northing, easting, elevation description. So I think we're good. We're going to click on OK. However, we're not going to use the next point number and we're not going to overwrite what's there. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to merge. Because if we merge, it'll take the information that already exists and it will overwrite it if there's new data. It will add new data to what's there, and then the stuff that didn't change, it will just leave alone. So I'm going to go ahead and merge those together. When I do that, when I click on OK, you should see these points all adjust, an elevation be added to represent the survey grade location of those tree locations that were collected in the field. So when I click on OK, we see those take an update. We'll come in and look at this particular point now. If we select that and look at properties, we see that it did maintain the info information that we added. And then it also maintained the other stuff that was already there. It updated my point elevation and location. I'm going to select this. We'll select all or select similar. And let's go ahead and add the info to all of these, because now the quality of these I'm going to say is A, because it's survey grade information, and the source, I'll say the surveyor and arborist. Okay, so I could put in the names of where it came from. So I'm going to have information about the trees, all the stuff from the arborist. I'm going to have the survey grade positional information. I'm going to have quality information recorded here, as well as some audit trail, where it came from, when it came in, where the file is, things like that, all merged into one location, while also at the same time being able to use that data in any of the labels that I'd like to create, depending on how those points are going to be used. Okay. Last thing I want to do, what would be very helpful is, now that I've merged all this stuff together, would be to perhaps export this as a shapefile that contains one shapefile that has all of the information in it, so that I can take advantage of the accuracy of the position, plus the additional attributes that the arborist had and what we've added since then. To do that, I'm going to use the same tool. We have the ability with this tool, once again, because it will automate the process of building those tables and assigning the data to Kogel points, feature lines, polylines. We also have the ability to export those objects that are created with property set data and that back out to shape. So I'm going to select this for the Kogel points. I'll execute it. It's going to ask me which points to export. I'm going to use my lasso to go around these. We'll hit enter. And I'll give it a name. I'll call this combined trees. It's my combined trees shapefile. And then you'll see that Kogel point properties, I've got a table of all of the information that Civil 3D knows about the points that I can export as far as attribute values. I'm not going to do that because my points are already in an accurate location. I'm going to let the geometry speak for itself rather than exporting static attributes in that for the location. I am, however, going to export the survey point number if once, for example, if I need to go back for the audit trail to look against that. The GIS information, not necessarily, I'm not going to use the feature ID that's on this, and the original northing, easting, and height that came from the GIS is not going to be accurate or consistent with where the locations of the points are now. So I'm going to take that off. Here is my quality information. We'll add that as well. And then the last thing is other audit or quality information that I can use in the future as far as sourcing where it came from, when it was imported and things like that. So let's go ahead and export that. We'll click on OK. That information comes out. If I flip over to a different file here, we'll go to Final. It's basically an example of where we started, where those 15 trees came in from the GIS data. Let's take a look at our new combined tree shape file. I'm going to drag that in and drop it. When I drop it, of course, that is green and green, so it makes it a little hard to see between the two. So let me maybe change the color of one of those. We'll say the combined trees, or the more accurate ones, I'm going to set those to maybe red, so there's a distinction between them. We'll close out of that. So the original locations are the light green or cyan color. The survey grade ones we can see have been updated are the red ones. If I select one of these red ones and we go to show data table, I can see the surveyor's point number, the ID, species, the diameter, condition, source, my quality information. All of that has been passed to these points, and I was able to create a shapefile from the data using both what the arborist, or the best of both from the arborist and the surveyor. And property set data was the key to my ability to do that. So with that, I am getting close to the end here. I'm going to flip back to my slides. We'll take a look at this from the my slide here. If you're looking for more information, as I mentioned in this session, and this may address many of the questions that may have come up or folks may have if they think about this later on in the day. This team has put together a number of videos regarding using property set data in Civil 3D. So if you want to grab a screenshot of this when we post the recording, I'll add the links to it directly. But if you want to grab a screenshot of this and go to YouTube, you can do a search on these topics. Some really cool things that, Alan did a video where you could create a list so that if it was ABCD, you could require that data to be put in as ABCD and not allow a random value to be put in. Jeff has done some stuff with tooltips and showing how to use that in the labels and covers a lot in addition to what we've covered here today. So with that, we are dangerously close to the end of our session. So in the interest of time, any questions that have not yet been addressed during the session, we'll absolutely get back to you with an answer. On behalf of Alan, Angel, Jeff, and myself, I'd like to thank you for attending the session. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you investing some of that time with us today. We also look forward to seeing you again in a couple of weeks at our next session. See ya.